So, what day is it today?
Tuesday?
Wrong. It's NWA Day.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
Okay, let's party.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for NWA news and information. My name is J. Cal, and each and every Tuesday, I come to you, that hashtag NWA fam, to talk all things National Wrestling Alliance. And today is no different. I know we are drastically approaching spooky season. It is full in force. It is Halloween time. Go get your candy. Go get some Halloween decorations. Go put on a mask. I got a mask. You guys want to see my mask? You guys want to see my mask? I'll put on a mask. You want to see it? You guys want to see the mask? You guys want to see the mask? You ain't ready for the mask. Told you weren't ready for the mask. This is my mustache and beard are all over my mouth now. It looks gross. What is up? What is going on? It's a pretty cool mask, isn't it? It's such a... Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm out. I'm done. Brandon, I'm done. I quit. Hey, what's going on? Tell me if I'm saying your name right. Carmelia? I don't want to say it incorrectly. You've been very cool, so I want to make sure I'm calling you by the correct name. Hey, it's just right. Son of a... Oh, Brandon, you're getting me good, man. You're getting me good. Welcome to the show, our new friend, Camaria. Am I saying it right? Tell me if I'm saying it right. Let me know. Folks on TikTok trying to get me all fired up. Oh, you watch WWE or NWA? I watch both, guys. I watch as much as I can of everything. I can't watch everything. There's not enough hours in the day to watch as much pro wrestling as I would like to. But I do watch regularly. My viewing habits are NWA on Tuesdays. Well, technically, I watch it like on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I will watch Raw. A lot of times I'll watch it on TikTok with our friend Soto619. Yeah, Brandon, El Generico's out there helping the orphans. Yes, now. And then I watch the United Wrestling Network, although I attend more of their events and watch them live than I actually do going and watching them on YouTube, but they're available there as well. And yeah, we talk NWA. This is your NWA podcast of record. I did actually recently do, hey, thanks for the follow, Gryffindor. I did a podcast with Hitting the Turnbuckle. Friends of the show, Fiona, you guys might know her as Fee. She and Adam asked me to come on to Hitting the Turnbuckle, which was cool because they kind of interviewed me. And it's interesting. It's always a weird dynamic to be interviewed when you're normally the one interviewing others, you know? So that was kind of cool. I'm not sure when that will drop, but I'm thinking it'll drop sometime very, very soon. And shout out to both of them. They were super cool in having me on. And I really, I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I think it's it was a lot of fun to record that with them. Thanks for the compliment on the mask. I actually have 2 Alliance blog masks made. The first one that you just saw me wearing a second ago, that was the original design that I had in mind for the mask. And the mask designer was going to make 2 of them for me. And I said, well, I want like an all red one and an all black one. And the mask designer said, I make you 2, one of them for your fat face. English was a second language. I don't think he was trying to be mean, but the second one is this mask right here. You guys could see. I don't know if you could see that on TikTok, and this one, it doesn't have the spot for the chin. So like my my beard can be there. I like both of them, but this one is the mask that's harder for me to wear because of the facial hair bunches up. And who knows? Maybe I'll wear it to a wrestling show and get in the ring and cause chaos. Let's see. So over here, we're back on we're on TikTok. We're also on YouTube. And I want to shout out to my my viewers over here on YouTube because they are super cool. What's up, noob? Thanks for hanging out today. Like we said, Carmeria already here. What's going on? And Willie Bowens is in the chat. That's right. Double D's over here. Brandon, you're over on the TikTok. But yeah, shout out to Brandon, who's watching us via TikTok. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Like I said, Willie Bowens in the chat. Carmelia said that they like the Team Hex, Marty Bell, Allison Kay. Great tag team. Did a great job as NWA Women Tag Team Champions. They made their return to the NWA most recently at Saw Win Part 3. They wrestled for the NWA Women's Tag Team champion titles. We haven't seen that match yet. We probably won't see it till late December, early January, but I'm looking forward to it. I always liked Marty Bell. Thought she was a fantastic wrestler. Allison Kay was good too. And right now, Marty Bell is your NWA Exodus Pro Women's World Champion, in case you didn't know that. Willie loves Big Mama and Allison Kane. Yeah, Big Mama recently defended her United Wrestling Network Women's Championship at Gotham Wrestling. Hey, Keen, you were at NWA 77? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. So NWA 77 is currently the show that we're getting on the on Roku. We're currently getting that show on Roku. I think it's so if you've been watching along on Roku, you're seeing the shows that you saw back at 77. I wasn't there. The last NWA event I attended was the Crockett Cup 2025 in Philly at the ECW Arena. And enjoyed that. Noob says, let's take the gloves off and let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that involves a certain bro. Well, the best news about all of that, Noob, is it turned out to be untrue. It turned out that he is not a part of the NWA. Willie, I don't see your joke, brother. It's not on here. If it's here, I don't see it. So I apologize. I could actually show you guys the chat. Look at this. Watch. Say something. Someone type something in the chat. There it is. See? Boom. That's kind of neat. I kind of like that. Is it wrong that I like that? I think it's cool. Gryffindor asked if that's Penta's mask. No, this is not a Penta mask. This is an original. This is an Alliance blog mask. This is a La Parca. Then I have a Blue Demon and another Alliance blog mask. I have the Ultimo Dragon, although it's kind of busted up. It's not really a great looking mask. It was a bootleg, so you get what you pay for, but let's see. All right. All right. Which one did you like, Noob? Which mask do you like? Allison Kay is the Clash Wrestling Women's Champion. I didn't know that. I'm not familiar with Clash Wrestling, but Allison Kay was great as the NWA Women's World Champion. She always delivered really good promos, very believable. I liked her a lot. Oh, nice. Nice, Kian. Got to see yourself on television. That's cool, man. I was at the Crockett Cup. You could see me on TV, but there was a rather large photographer who kept kind of standing in front of my view and the wrestling. So a lot of times I got blocked out by him. Rest in peace to the dog, homie Coolio with the flow. All right, yeah. Brandon, I'm not Canadian. Knock it off. All right? It's not funny. I'm not Canadian. I don't know why I'm using that voice. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about Vince Russo. Okay, the rumors are not true. And it's very telling to anybody who watches the NWA that the fact that it was believable makes me disappointed, right? Because Vinny Russo, the guy who put, the crash, Vincent Russo worked for the WWE, and a lot of people credit him with some of the more prominent stuff that they did in the early 90s prior to the Attitude Era, or kind of gave way to the Attitude Era. And there were some cool things that he did. But the thing about Vince Russo was he's creative. He's not the creative. He is a creative. Thank you for the chilies, Mia. Appreciate you. So when you put Vince Russo at the head of your creative, that's when things fall apart. See, Vince Russo had to answer to Vince McMahon. So there was a checks and balances. So some of the crazier ideas were kind of curbed, right? And I don't feel like an unchecked Vince Russo is good for pro wrestling. We've seen it. We saw it the dying days of WCW when everything was going to shit. Like, it literally went to shit. And if you don't remember WCW, Double D is watching it right now for some reason. Watching Sin on the Sin pay-per-view on the Peacock. Vince Russo is not good for pro wrestling. That name, though, makes me laugh. Vince Russo makes you laugh? Or Double D, Powerpuff? Mia? His name is Devin Dowling, but I already have a friend named Devin. So there's Double D and there's DKM. Double D and DKM, but they're both named Devin. That's the only way I can tell them apart. Steve G, what's going on? So the good news is Vince Russo, that was just a rumor. Of course, he perpetuated it himself. He went on a podcast and said, hey, look, let's go. Yeah, I'm working with a historic wrestling company. And let's be honest, I'm not a big Juggalo. I'm not an ICP fan, but they've been producing pro wrestling events since the late 90s. So to say that it's a historic brand is not really a lie. They're still around. They're older than what TNA wrestling was. There is a lot of truth to that. But I feel like that was an inflated in sensationalism to get people talking. And he was quick to, Russo was using sarcasm, to be fair. So King Shaw Mega says Russo was using sarcasm. I heard in the interview, and the guy said NWA, and I didn't hear Russo correct him. And then went on to what he was booking for JCW. Now, that's not my particular cup of tea, and I don't have a problem with anyone going to support JCW if that's... Look, they use some great talent. They use a lot of NWA talent. They use Silas Mason. They use Alex Taylor. They use Kerry Morton. They use Ricky Morton. And one of my favorite wrestlers, Willie Mack. So if you like that pro wrestling, please continue to support them. But I'm not interested in watching anything that Vince Russo does. And I'm so glad that this just turned out to be a rumor and innuendo. But the scary thing is there wasn't a lot of us doubting that when the news broke. Like it was my wife and I, our 12-year wedding anniversary this past Sunday. I was out. I wasn't home. I was having some drinks and some Cubanos. I was eating good. I was doing good. And my phone started blowing. Did you hear about Russo? Did you hear about Russo? Did you hear about Russo? And I'm like, no, I haven't heard about Russo. What's going on? And then I see it. I got to be honest, man. I was ready to jump off the ship. I was ready to watch the Titanic go right into the iceberg because that was it. I feel like if you attach Vince Russo to your brand, you are heading for an iceberg. And I feel like that's going to sink whatever ship it's attached to. So we'll see what Vince Russo does with JCW. I wish all the competitors and the organization all the luck in the world, but I am so glad that he is not connected to the NWA. And as our friend King Sean Mega would say, now we can enjoy the Brian Idol era in peace. All right, I got to get to this joke. Willie Bowen, always crafting a wise crack, and this time it's no different. J-Cal, the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon is so murky. You know why? It's because he uses it as his bathtub. And I believe he is the man known as Tyrus. And I'm not. Ugh. I don't even want to think about Tyrus in the bathtub. No, thank you. Now, Double D says, should we bring back Glacier? Heck yeah. Glacier was wrestling on the Independents not too long ago. I don't know if he's still around. Willie says Hogan and Bischoff helped destroy WCW. I agree, but I really feel like Vince Russo is the one that really kind of put the kibosh on. And look, it took TNA off of was it Paramount TV? Vince Russo is one of those WCW old heads who has terrible takes on podcasts. Yeah, he's just not good. He likes to be like abrasive for clicks. He likes to say things that's going to ruffle feathers. Jim Cornette likes to ruffle feathers because Jim Cornette ruffles feathers. Vince Russo feels like he's pretending to be that guy. And let's be honest, what does Vince Russo really know about pro wrestling? He was a guy who wrote for the WWE magazine. Vic Venom. Do you guys remember Vic Venom in the WWF magazine? Yeah, that was him. And somehow he got onto the WWE creative. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have some good ideas, but left to his own devices, I don't feel like he's a good creative person to have in pro wrestling. And he's going to take all the victories and he'll take all the victory laps for the radiant success in the WWE and the Monday Night Raw and the Monday Night Wars. But I don't feel like he's not the guy. He's not the guy. And anybody that is hoping that he's going to be that guy, Albert, you just made the list, Albert. Broken Beto, you just made my list because I am not Kevin Owens. My name is Jake Al from the Alliance blog, and I talk pro wrestling. I don't wrestle, I talk pro wrestling. All right. Update on Glacier. He is an agent for AEW. Like an assassin? Like, does he go kill people? Like a special agent? That'd be amazing. I would delete the list. Albert, you can't delete the list. It's handwritten. It's handwritten. And this is sheet 5. Okay, I've got 4 more of them filled out to the max. Like 94 names on one sheet of paper. So 94 times 4 3/4. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. Steve G said Russo and Bret Hart destroyed WCW. A well-executed plan by VKM. You think Bret Hart destroyed? Oh, Albert, you meant you would delete the list. You would delete the list. Which poster? Are you talking about this poster? This poster. Yeah, this is the Alliance logo. If I start moving some things around, you'd see the address for the website, alliance-wrestling.com. Your number one source for news and for information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Carmelia, I mean, you could erase it, right? But it's written with a pen. It's written with a pen, so you can't erase it. And you could destroy the list, but it's here with me. You can't like hack my computer to get to it. And who knows, maybe I've scanned it. Maybe I have a spreadsheet laid out with names and locations and IP. I don't have anything like that. Come on, that'd be weird. That'd be weird. I'm feeling kind of weird right now. What's in this Diet Coke? Oh, just sodium. All right. Oh, no. She really got fired? Masha got fired from TNA. That somebody told her in Akira's business. Yeah, I didn't know that Masha got fired, but I knew she got in hot water. Yeah, and look, here's the thing: when it comes to domestic violence, I feel like we all have to kind of treat it with some respect. Not that the act itself was respectful or anything like that, but because it's a serious matter, right? Nobody should be hitting their partner. There's violence inside of a relationship should not exist. Violence in itself should not really exist in the outside world. Pro wrestling is a show. Pro wrestling is supposed to be violent by nature, but it's an act. And shoot fighting, wrestling, football, MMA, these are all violent activities, and that's fine. We all know what it is when we sign up for it, but a relationship should not have violence. And whether it be the man perpetrating it or the woman perpetrating it, anybody who's committing acts of violence within a relationship, be it your significant other, a brother, a sister, a spouse, a partner, a friend, a child, we draw the line at that. So yeah, we like, I used to enjoy Masha Slamovich wrestling, but I can't support somebody who is doing that. And I hope that for her sake, she goes and gets some counseling and gets her head on straight and realizes that what she did was wrong and needs to learn from those mistakes. Steve G is still on it, man. He's got that tinfoil hat on. Says, no, this was all Vincent Kennedy McMahon. No, I know he helped. Russo needed help. Montreal screw job happens. Brett goes to WCW. Years later, WCW's gone. Not just that WCW's gone, right, Steve? But WCW gets sold to the WWE. And it gets so much worse, too. If we're going to put on our tinfoil hats, I'll put mine on, too. Because not only did Vince was able to buy the IP of WCW and add all of its contents, its libraries, its patents, its copyrights, they were able to secure all of that from the closing. And what's crazy about that is Eric Bischoff had Fuchsia Media Venture Partners. He had partners that he was going to do WCW. It was going to be a much trimmed down version of WCW. It was not going to have the bloated AOL Time Warner contract. So you wouldn't have had Sting or Kevin Nash or Hulk Hogan or any of those guys, but you would have had like Booker T, basically the same guys that invaded WWE. They were still under contract, and Bischoff was going to do a wrestling promotion, right? It was still going to be WCW, and he had a TV deal lined up, and Turner said, nope, we're good. We're just going to sell it to Vince. That's crazy to me. That is so crazy to me. And yeah, like that's wild. And if I was going to believe any conspiracy theory, that would be it, right? That would be it. Sean Mega says Billy versus Dixie versus Tony versus Russo. I'll pass on that. I watched you KO A-Town Down Under on USA. They needed it. Big Luke. I think Big Luke, you already made the list. But if you weren't, you are now. It was going to be a Vegas resident. Sean, was it going to be like on like a hotel show? Because I still think that would work. I feel like that's such a missed opportunity. I know Glow's doing stuff down on the Strip. They were there last week. I think they'll be back there. I think they're there this week too. And that would have been so good. Oh, got it. Got it, Big Luke. Got it. I still think you're on the list, though. Coda Chavez acknowledged Roman Reigns. Well, that's good. All right. Kian Easterling said, I met Idol at an NWA show. Is that you met them at the 77? You met Idol at 77? And you do mean Brian Idol, right? Not Austin Idol? Yeah, Chris, it's sad. Again, what do we know about life is that it is ever fleeting, and our heroes are only human. Nobody lives forever. Death is undefeated. And I hate to say it, but we are all going to pass at some time. I'm not saying that anyone should make peace with that, but I'm saying you should definitely check in on your loved ones early and often. Myself, both my parents are gone. So I know what it's like to lose a parent, and it's never easy. I guess it'd be easier when you're an adult as opposed to when you're a child, but it never gets easier. It's always sad. And my my support to the Rotunda Wyndham family. I hope that they're making peace with what's happening, and it sucks. And I never root for death. I never root for people to die, but that's just what it is. Yeah, Sean, I lost my dad in 2017. I lost my mom in 2009, and it doesn't ever get easier. I think about my dad all the time. I think about my mom all the time, and it sucks. Racism shouldn't be in wrestling either. Absolutely. There's no room for hate in pro wrestling. Like, you could hate the bad guy, but you hate them because they're a bad guy. You don't hate anybody based on their, race, religion, creed, orientation, whatever. That's I hate that about. Ironic. I hate. You don't drive out hate with hate. You drive out hate with love and acceptance and understanding. This is getting deep today, guys. You got me all over the place. Noob says, well, at least we got Russian wrestlers to see on TV. We've got Ilya Dragunov in the WWE, and of course the crushed Natalia Markova in the NWA. One of them is the United States champion. The other holds the Burke. I don't like Tessa Blanchard either. Tessa is such a weird dichotomy, because that Tessa Blanchard should be a superstar. Tessa Blanchard should be spoken about the same way that we talk about Charlotte Flair. Tessa's fantastic in the ring. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel at the Alliance blog, I think it's on there. It might be on the Almost Lucha Libre. But I have a match with Tessa Blanchard taking on Stephanie Vacour, and this was before I knew who Stephanie Vacour was. I filmed it when I was down in TJ as a Lucha Libre event, and I'm like, oh man, Tessa's going to eat this girl's lunch. It's not going to be fun. And Stephanie just beat the crap out of Tessa. And I was here for it. I loved it. It was great. But Tessa should have been a bigger star, but her own point of view, her own worldview kind of kept her from that. Let's see. That's interesting. I didn't know. Double D's putting his tinfoil hat on and says, always thought it was an inside job by Bret Hart too. Scott Hall thought that. That's interesting. I guess I didn't know that. Okay. I think Mercedes Moné is a fantastic wrestler. I don't think she's better than Bret Hart. I think she's one of the best women's wrestlers today, and maybe of all time. But I don't think she's better than Bret. But I don't think Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's better than Bret Hart. And I think Ric Flair's better than Bret, but I don't think Ricky Steamboat was. And Mercedes Moné is kind of like Ricky Steamboat. Maybe better because of what she's been able to accomplish. Again, wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, wrestling in London, wrestling in Mexico City. Like, these are really great accomplishments. And the fact that she's still working the independents, like she's still winning titles. Look, I get it, but yeah. Double D says, what's on tap for Power? Yeah, we should probably get to that. I'll get back to more of your guys' comments here momentarily. There's a lot going on in the chat, but I will get to it, I promise. But let's talk about what happened on this week's, or what will happen on this week's Power. Because if you're a fan of the NWA, that's what we're here doing, is promoting the National Wrestling Alliance, talking about the NWA. And of course, they did announce just recently that the NWA will be returning to the Tampa studios, the WEDU PBS Studios in Tampa, Florida, as the fallout from Samhain Part 3 will be felt on this Saturday, December 13th. So we'll have the fallout of everything that's happening currently that was recorded at Samhain Part 3. We won't actually get to see it, though, probably until January. I hate the taping schedule for the NWA. But I think we should acknowledge that because I believe this time last year, the NWA was gearing up for another signature live event. This year, we're getting a TV taping, so we'll see how that will kind of play out as it gets closer. But this week's Power, of course, is going to have the return of one Alexander Hammerstone, former MLW middleweight champion, former MLW world heavyweight champion. He's had appearances for NXT through by way of TNA Wrestling. He has been a free agent, and Hammerstone has his second match against in the NWA against former Southern Six member. Fellow Southern Six member Kerry Morton. Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor, and Thrillbilly Silas Mason make up the Southern Six. We saw Alexander Hammerstone's debut in the NWA when he took on Silas Mason. That match was not without controversy, as both Taylor and Morton came in to interfere on behalf of Mason, allowing him to get the victory over Hammerstone. And as a return bout, they will not a return bout, but part of Hammerstone's comeuppance will be to take on Kerry Morton one-on-one, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Kerry Morton has been putting in the work. Kerry Morton needs that big-time victory to take that next step. I don't think it's going to be on the back of Alexander Hammerstone, but I think this will be a fun match and really play up to the hype of what they're going to do with Hammerstone next. Again, he's a free agent, so we don't know if he will continue with the NWA. There's been no announcements in terms of where we'll see him next. He did wrestle most recently at Solwyn Part 3. So we'll see. Maybe we get another showdown between Silas Mason and Hammerstone down the road. Also, we'll see the Holy Grail, which is EC3, PB Smooth, and Pastor CeeLo, taking on the new tandem of Aron Stevens and Carson Dake. It was last week we saw Aron Stevens abruptly turn on Blunt Force Trauma, knocking out Carnage with that loaded glove. And this week now, Carson, Dake, and Stevens will be teaming up against the Holy Grail. Now, initially, this match was advertised to be a world title match, a world tag team title match. It was supposed to be the Immortals taking on the Holy Grail. That match was changed, and now we have Stevens and Dake taking on PB Smooth and EC3. It should be a good match. Lastly, there's the King B match. Now, they did a Queen B match a few years ago, and the rules of the match were very awkward and weird and a little off-putting, but basically it started off as like a 6-person tag team match that then became a triple threat match, and the elimination match determined a new number one contender. So what we're seeing this week, hey, Darren, thanks for the heart. We appreciate you. So what we expect to see is we're going to have Lev and Crazy Steve and Alex Misery in the same ring with Slade. And I don't know who the other two guys are. I know who they are, but I can't remember their names at the moment. So we'll just kind of have to acknowledge that. I think one of them's Luke Curtis, I think. And I don't know who the other one is. Thanks for the Go Popular, Darren. I appreciate you. So it's, again, we'll have a new number one contender, which hopefully will play out. This match should have lasting effects that fade into the next event. So we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. Now, to get some more of your guys' comments, because now we covered Power. That's Power. Those 3.5 matches will be this week's Power. And, of course, there'll be a lot of fun skits and backstage promos that hopefully make sense. Ace Animal says, KO, when you coming back? Jeez. Let's see. Willie Bowen says, yes, Steve G. I love Big Red Betty and Jesse Jones. Nice. Yeah, Brian and no, it was a house show they had in New York. Oh, so Keon, that's awesome. I'm glad you found us. I hope you hang out with us on Thursday as well, because we are an NWA channel by nature, and every Tuesday and Thursday I'm live to talk about the National Wrestling Alliance. This is a pre-show for Power, but then we do a post-show on Thursdays where we recap what happens on Power and kind of talk about what the NWA is up to. Steve G says, Willie, I think they'll be the new trio champions along with Holly. Rest in peace, Daphne. Yeah, Daphne was another really sad passing. I think I might have called you Kean. Is it Keon? Make sure you correct me, because if I don't know, I just kind of guess. Is it Keon or is it Keenan? I don't mind being corrected. Bo Dallas already lost Bray Wyatt due to illness. He's not going to lose his father to illness too. I mean, I don't think he gets a choice, noob. I don't think any of us get a choice. Yeah, Bray died from a heart attack that was caused from COVID. Like he was kind of connected. Willie says Ricky Steamboat's way better than Bret the Hitman Hart. I think that's a point of contention. That's a point of contention. I don't know, man. I would love to see what everyone in the chat thinks. Who is the better wrestler, Ricky Steamboat or Bret the Hitman Hart? Willie. I think that's a good debate. Nikki called Stephanie Vaquer Stephanie Vaquet. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah, we did talk NWA. Jay, you don't like Flair, do you? Flair's a lot better than Bret. No, 100%. Flair is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. If we're just taking the technical aspect of pro wrestling, I still feel like Flair and Bret are Flair's here, Bret's here. I feel like Flair, there's nobody better in pro wrestling than Ric Flair. I don't think there's one person better than Ric Flair. I feel like Bret Hart's really good, though. And I feel like if we're talking like top 5 wrestlers of all time, I don't know if Bret makes that list, but I definitely know Flair does. If we go top 10, Bret definitely makes the list. And I don't think HBK is better than both of them, Double D. Brandon's back. Great. Bret or Cena? I'm going to go Bret over Cena. I feel like Cena meant more. It just depends on what we're grading. If we're talking about overall like wrestling and what they contributed to pro wrestling, John Cena being on the top of WWE during a time when business was down isn't necessarily, I don't hold that against him, but Bret Hart was pretty iconic from both the territory days and through WWE's nationalism. And, look, he came to WCW and he was a world heavyweight champion for WCW. John Cena can't say that he was world champion for WCW. John Cena can't say he's world champion for AEW. John Cena did everything only in the WWE. I met Aaron Stevens at the same event. Yeah, that's cool. Eva Lise lives in Puerto Rico. I think I knew that. The TV tapings are bad because they're slow as snail. Yeah, and they just need to get a lot. They need to move faster. From taping to distribution, it needs to happen faster. Steve G says, I lost a lot of respect for Bret. To this day, he won't admit Montreal was a work. I don't know if it was a work. I don't know. Cracker Barrel just called me Kevin Owens. Cracker Barrel, you just made the list. Cracker Barrel. You've got the old logo too, so you got that going for you. Crackle Barrel just made the list. Let's see. Patrick Moore says, I've been wondering, how did Jim Crockett Promotions get control of the NWA World Heavyweight title in the late 80s if Don Owen was still there? That's a great question, and I don't know that I have a good answer for you. Ben, what's going on? Thanks for hanging out with us today. Essentially, and Mia's back. What's up, Mia? Back then, the NWA during the time of the late 90s or early 90s, late 80s was dominated by like money, right? Because Jim Crockett Promotions was the biggest territory. So the fact that they were the mover and the shaker allowed them to have kind of like control over the title belt. I'm sure that there was still some sort of board of directors that had to agree on things. But the fact of the matter is, like, money talks and everything else walks. And if they said that, hey, Sting is the best guy to hold this belt, or Flair is, or whoever, I think the other members would be just on board with it. I think I remember hearing that Don Owens had the last territory defense before the territories finally dried up for the NWA. But with that being said, Jim Crockett Promotions was doing so much business. Cracker Barrel, feel free to ask, man. NWA is kind of my forte. I think I could do that. I can answer some of your questions if you have them, please. Yeah, Steve-O did hold every major title in the NWA, but again, like, he was the Intercontinental Champion in WWE. He had some big time matches in All Japan Pro Wrestling. You can't take away from what Ricky Steamboat did, right? But I still feel like he wasn't better than Bret Hart. Why do you think I'm Samoan? Oos? Why Oos? And yeah, Ace Animal, I'm kind of disappointed that Cena didn't get to have a match with Bray Wyatt either. How does NWA own NWA Liberty and NWA Wrestling owns its titles and properties? Oh, okay. I'm not feeling very oosy. Oos. Mia, I like you. Cracker Barrel, that's a great question, and I have an answer for you. Because what the NWA owns isn't what the WWE owns isn't the NWA library. It is the Jim Crockett Promotions library. Jim Crockett Promotions was a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, but they weren't the only member of the National Wrestling Alliance. So think of it this way. Much like in boxing, there used to be sanctioning bodies for professional wrestling. There was the NWA, there was the National Wrestling Association, there was the World Wrestling Association. There was all these different bodies of almost like commissions, right? Like they had these sanctioning bodies and they had their own rules and their own titles and everything else. And it wasn't until like 1950, 52, 53, maybe even 54, you had Lou Thez go and collect all of the world titles from these promotions, and all of these different wrestling bodies became one under the National Wrestling Alliance. So the NWA was never an actual singular promotion until the last like 10 years. Up until the last, I guess, 12 years. The NWA, at the height of its popularity, NWA was a sanctioning body that had territories. Now, Jim Crockett Promotions was based in Atlanta and the Mid-Atlantic, and then later they would take over the Florida territory as well. But, Jim Crockett Promotions was one of the biggest members. But you also had Don Owens, who was in Portland. And you had EMLL, which is now CMLL in Mexico, and you had WCW in Japan. And a lot of these companies, kind of outgrew the NWA. Even at one point, look, the AWA was a part of the NWA. The WWF was also a part of the NWA. All these promotions at one point were part of the National Wrestling Alliance. And you would see these territories break off. So All Japan Pro Wrestling was one of the first ones to leave. They got replaced by New Japan Pro Wrestling. EMLL was left in the 90s along with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Don Owens ended his relationship with the NWA in 1992. They closed the doors. 93, you lost New Japan and you lost EMLL. And then by like 94, the only real NWA promotions that existed, you had Dennis Corluzzo in New Jersey. You had NWA Dallas, which was Jim Crockett Jr. And then you had Howard Brody. And then Steve Rickard was a promoter in New Zealand who had ties to the NWA. So when WWE bought Jim Crockett Promotions, which Jim Crockett Promotions became WCW, when they bought WCW, they got that entire library and all the IP. So they own those Jim Crockett Promotion matches and videos and all that history. But it is not the NWA. They own Jim Crockett Promotions. I don't know if that cleared it up for you, but I hope it did at Crackle Barrel. Noob says, hopefully these skits are making sense because I said it time and time again. I only watch NWA so I could see Markova and not these SNL skits. Yeah, and Crackle Barrel, the thing is you're not alone in thinking that a lot of us grew up as NWA fans. I used to watch the NWA back in the early 80s, mid 80s, and I would see, the Road Warriors and the Rock and Roll Express and the Four Horsemen and Sting and Lex Luger, and they always made it feel like the NWA became WCW, but it was never the case. Jim Crockett sold his territory, sold the Jim Crockett Promotions to Ted Turner. Ted Turner then renamed the company WCW, World Championship Wrestling. So when we look at the history of it, you have to realize that Jim Crockett was just a member of a greater NWA. I can see Nikki turning on heel on Stephanie McCurr anytime. Yeah, I could see that too. David Valentine. I'm still waiting for David Valentine's fake breaking news headline about Vinny Russo. Let's see. Cena shows up at All Out next year to turn heel against and join the. Oh man, that would be crazy. I don't think I'd like that. No, I did not attack Jacob Fatu on SmackDown. Hey, for those of you on TikTok, I need 4 more followers. Actually, I need 3 more followers. If you're not following me on TikTok, can you follow me? I need 3 more followers. If you guys could help me hit just 3 more followers, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Brandon, I do know that a certain French Canadian was also alive in the 1980s. I don't know about Russell Pro Vargas, Carmeria. I don't know about that. I'll totally take Steamboat over Hart. 2 feuds, Steamboat versus Flair, Steamboat versus Macho Man. Jay, give me 2 feuds Bret Hart was in that are better than those. Sheesh. That's... You don't think Bret versus Shawn gets some credence, Steve G? You don't think that Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels was a good feud? One better than that, though. I mean, he did take the belt off of Ric Flair. To answer Patrick Moore's question, yes, ECW was part of the NWA. Yes. Is Don Owens your father? Damn it, Double D. No relation. Gene LaBelle in SoCal, the Maivia family in Hawaii, was affiliated with the NWA. Absolutely. Judo Gene LaBelle, his mom, whose name I can't think of off the top of my head. It's going to come to me. Eileen Eaton. Yes. Eileen Eaton was like the first women's boxer and wrestling promoter. She was like, she ran NWA Hollywood back in the day. Judo Gene, yeah. What Willie, also Dick Lane, the announcer who was great that nobody knows. No, Dick Lane was amazing. Dick Lane was also I think he was the voice of the Padres. Anyway, I wish we had more guys like Dick Lane around. Thanks for liking the live, guys. Again, I just need 3 more followers on TikTok. If you haven't followed me yet, please do so. If you want to share it out, I'd appreciate that as well. When Jim Crockett sold to Ted Turner, did it make Ted Turner an automatic member of the NWA? I think there was. I think it was still. I think he bought the membership too. I think it was part of the purchase because they did. There was a time where WCW was a part of the NWA, and then they split from the NWA, and then they brought the NWA back. Remember when Ric Flair left and joined the WWE? Remember, he left with the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. So when Flair left, I think it was in 91, he brought the 10 pounds of, or not the 10 pounds, he brought Big Gold. I don't have it out. He brought Big Gold with him to WWE. That was the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And the NWA continued to acknowledge Ric Flair as the World Heavyweight Champion until WCW, or until he started actually wrestling for the WWE. That's when the NWA withdrew recognition of him being the world champion. Then New Japan Pro Wrestling with the NWA crowned a new world champion, which would be Hiroshi, no, not Tenzin, Masahiro Chono. So Chono would win the tournament, become the new NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Then Masahiro Chono would lose the title to the Great Muta. Great Muta would then lose the title to Ric Flair, or Barry Windham. Barry Windham would lose the title to Ric Flair. Then eventually WCW would withdraw from the NWA completely for the last time in 1993. Interesting thing to note that during the world title tournament to crown the new NWA World Champion in Japan, they also featured Arn Anderson and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Back then he was Stunning Steve Austin. But yeah. You know, Steve G, that's fair. Like, I don't have another good answer for you. You're right. Steamboat did have Macho Man, and he had Flair, and those are two very iconic feuds. The feud that Hart had with Flair was kind of one-sided until Hart won the title in Saskatchewan, and like Hart versus PCO isn't a big great feud, or Hart versus, I don't know. You might have me on this one. You might have me on this one. Let's see. Now, I know it's fake breaking news, but MLW and NWA having some sort of working agreement would not be a bad thing if you ask me. Brandon Stephen Keene. That would be great if it happened. Yeah, but don't hold your breath, Willie, because David likes to say things that aren't necessarily true. Oh, why did they just give Flair his money back and get the title back? Because WCW didn't feel like the people in charge of WCW didn't feel like they owed Flair the deposit back, which that was the contention. Like, as an NWA world champion back in the day, you had to pay the deposit. The deposit was to keep you from dropping the belt to someone that didn't deserve it. And it was a substantial amount of money. I think it was like $25,000, something like that. Now, obviously, if Flair put up $25,000 to be world champion, they need to pay him back. And until they paid him back, then why would he give up the belt? It's weird. But yeah, I mean, and it's crazy when you think about it, because see, Steve G's got me thinking about Bret Hart. Like, who did Bret Hart have a good feud with? Okay, I got one. It wasn't for the world title, but Bret Hart versus Davey Boy Smith, the IC title. That was a good run. That was a good series of matches. I don't know. You could say that it's better than Ricky Steamboat and Rick Flair, but I think it was pretty good. Mia, what's wrong with Diet Coke? I usually do Coke Zero. What's wrong with Diet Coke, Mia? The next surgery is going to talk lots of nostalgia. Brandon, you got to understand, this is my guy. Yeah, Steve G, there's Mia, 100%. I bought this last week. My daughter and I were going to a wrestling show last Tuesday night. In fact, my wife and my kids and I all went down to watch championship wrestling from Hollywood, and my daughter wanted something with caffeine in it, so I bought her a Coke Zero. She drank about half of it. It still has carbonation from a week ago. I was so surprised. Thank you for the follow, Crackle Barrel. I appreciate it. I need 2 more follows. Who's going to stand up and give me a follow? I appreciate it. And if I don't get it, that's okay. What do you mean, Mia? Steamboat versus Randy Savage. Yeah, that's what they're saying. So, Ace, we're both on TikTok and on YouTube. And over on YouTube, the question was, who's better, Flair or Hart? And yeah, I think Flair is the better wrestler than Bret Hart, but I'm saying Bret Hart's pretty close. I'm saying Bret Hart's better than Ricky Steamboat. They're telling me that Steamboat is better than Bret Hart, right? And the basis of that is Steamboat had 2 really good feuds with Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage, transcended 2 different big wrestling national promotions. I'm saying it's Bret Hart because he had the feud with Shawn Michaels, which was legendary. And then my second one is Dynamite Kid. I mean, not Dynamite Kid, Davey Boy Smith, excuse me. For that Intercontinental title back in 92, SummerSlam, like, that was iconic. Steamboat is the one wrestler who never turned heel. That's true. And yeah, he did have feuds with the world, Mia, and they're saying that too, but I'm like, who else? Who did he feud with? Like, do we say Diesel? Oh, Patrick just hit. Oh my God, Patrick just made it. Brett versus Austin. I forgot about Austin, but yes, absolutely Austin. And I don't know, Brett versus Austin was kind of like the thing, maybe more than Macho Man and Mia said Vince versus Brett was a bigger feud. Yeah, that's pretty big too. Let's see. So yeah, there's some good. Look, I might not be right. I could be wrong, but there's at least good arguments for both cases. Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. And even as a little guy watching WrestleMania 3, I was like, wow, Macho Man's my new favorite wrestler. Willie says it'd be great if some women of wrestling came to the NWA. Yeah, I agree. I would love to see some WoW talent in the NWA. We've seen a few of them already. Valentina Rossi was part of the Alliance in WoW, and now she's one half of the NWA Women's Tag Team Champions. We saw Hollywood Haley J as part of WoW. Now she's back in the NWA again. She's kind of been going back and forth. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of them. Dave Valentine says, fake breaking news. Billy Corgan introduced a new World's Heavyweight Championship soon. 18 pounds of gold. You don't mess with perfection. I don't know if you guys could see this on TikTok. This is the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. This is the 10 pounds of leather and gold, the way that God intended it to look. The greatest world championship of all time, Daddy. Let's see. Ric Flair was NWA World Tag Team Champion with Blackjack Mulligan and Greg Valentine. Keon says, breaking news, I'm the new NWA World Champion. Son of a... They picked you over me, Keon? And Triple H just quit WWE. Look, there was talk that he would leave when Vince came back, and that would have been so insane if he would have went somewhere else. Brett and Vince over the U.S. title? When did Brett and Vince... Which Vince? Are you talking about Vincent? Not VKM. Goldberg. Hard at his Jerry Lawler kiss my foot match. Yeah, that wasn't one of my favorites. What about Brett versus Owen? How can we forget about their brothers? Brett versus Owen. It's another solid one. You think Triple H stinks as a boss? Look, I don't know how I feel about... Look, I'll tell you this. I'm not a huge fan of what TKO is doing. I feel like anytime you price out your audience, I feel like that's a bad look. I feel like there are so many good things that were happening in the WWE, and raising the ticket prices and making it more expensive to watch the premium live events was a huge step backwards in terms of their growth. But good Lord, they're making money, and I don't feel like anything is slowing that vehicle down. But if TKO were to let go of Triple H, do they just promote Shawn Michaels to run the company, run the creative? Like that's so wild to me, And then there's guys like, Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce and Bobby Roode, and they're all running in the back. They're all agenting the show. Keon wants to do a New York street fight. All right. I mean, I've been hitting the gym pretty hard, Keon. I don't know, man. And Crackle Barrel points out Nick Khan is out of his mind for thinking that the WWE would travel to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania. There might be some people that would. I won't. I have no desire to travel to Saudi Arabia. Look, it might be interesting, right? I think it might be an interesting show and an event, but if you wanted me to go to WrestleMania, why don't you put it in I don't know, Italy? Hey, your boy Jay can take his wife to Italy, have a little romance during WrestleMania weekend, or London. Why not London? You already have a huge audience in the UK. Plus, it becomes a hub for other international European countries to come to your show. I mean, obviously, Ireland's right there. Scotland is right there. But then you have Spain and France and Germany and Austria and Sweden and Switzerland. And look at me knowing geography, right? All these countries could come. Putting it in Canada, I mean, they did do a WrestleMania in Toronto. It was the one time they did a WrestleMania in Canada, but I don't feel like that would be so much bigger. But obviously it comes down to dollars and cents. Saudi Arabia paid, and they paid very hefty for that WrestleMania. And, that's what they need right now. What's next? WWE announces events in Russia. I mean, it could happen. I mean, they've done events in China. Heather Monroe's back in wrestling. That's cool. Heather Monroe was I got to sit next to Heather Monroe on a flight to China. Speaking of China, she was wrestling Barbie Hayden, and it wasn't a title match. It was just a straight up women's match. One of the first women matches to happen in China. I got to sit next to Heather Monroe for about 16 hours. It was cool because she's a great person. She's fun and easy to talk to. One of the drawbacks, though, is like they kept thinking that I was either her handler or her boyfriend or husband or whatever, because the flight crew would not speak to her directly. They would ask me for her. Is she hungry? Heather, are you hungry? Yeah, she's hungry. She'll take the vegetarian plate. Like, it was so weird. I'm sure she remembers, but it was kind of fun. Oh, that's a hell of a great one right there, Dave Scooby. Would love to see AJ Styles become GM of TNA after his WWE run ends. That would be awesome. I would love that. I don't know what you do with AJ Styles in retirement, but I mean, working for TNA would be, I think that'd be kind of cool. I would love to see him at least get one more run in TNA. I don't know if that's going to happen either. They did WrestleMania twice. That's right, Patrick. They did do it twice in Toronto. You are correct. You are correct, but not outside of Toronto, just in Toronto. And Ace Animal also brought up Brett versus Bulldog. Brandon thinks my neck surgery was work. Look, I'm not Kevin Owens, man. I'm just not. LOLILOLRELOL. Thank you. Yeah, Heather was great, man. She not only was she such a sweetheart, right, but she was really good in the ring. Remember, she had a huge rivalry with I forgot her name now. Oh, she had a rivalry with I can't remember the talent's name that was in the WWE. She's the one that did that drop kick off the rope and hurt herself really bad. Dang, I know Steve probably knows who I'm talking about, but they were feuding for what would have been the United Wrestling Network Women's Championship, and then COVID happened. She got signed by the WWE, and then they kind of delayed the women's title for a few more years after that. Luke and Carl, the Machine Gun Enter, should come back for AJ Styles' last run. Man, I wish they would have. No, not Candice Michelle. She got messed up too, but someone more recent, more current. Now you're gonna make me look it up. I don't mind looking it up, but I just was hoping it would come to me. Let's see real quick. Heather Monroe. Matches. Oh, come on. Lacey Ryan was Zoe Stark. I didn't know that Heather Monroe also wrestled Cara Jade too. Who would you want to see AJ Styles face off with one more time? Can I pick anyone, Ace? Are we talking anyone across the board, or are we talking specifically like WWE or TNA wrestling? Anyone. Then I would run back AJ Styles either versus Samoa Joe or AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels. I think that would be good. Candice Michelle is in WoW? The former GoDaddy actress? The commercialist? AJ versus Y2J. Did they ever? Yeah, they did. I don't know if I need AJ versus Y2J, because as much as I love as much as I used to love Jericho as a performer, I don't think he can go at the level that even AJ can go now. So I feel like I'd be disappointed in that match. Like, you know, in all honesty, I would have liked to seen if AJ had it in him to make a run in AEW, so he could face off against guys like Kenny Omega or guys like Okada or even Takashita. I feel like it would have been pretty good. Candice Michelle is in WoW. How did I not know this? That doesn't even sound like it's a real thing. What does she wrestle as Candice Michelle? It's not coming up. Maybe I don't know how to spell. Yeah. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Did we get AJ Styles versus KO? I'm sure we did. The Candice Michelle that I think me and Double D are speaking of is the one that wrestled in the WWE, teaming with Eve Torres against Beth Phoenix and Natalia. And her last wrestling match was back in 2017 against Lisa Marie Varon. So I don't think it's the same Candice Michelle. What's up, Finn? Finn made it. What's going on? I'm almost positive we got KO versus AJ Styles, but now I don't know, so now I'm going to check it out. AJ Styles. I don't know if they ever wrestled outside of the WWE, but I'm positive that they did in the WWE. So let's look. Hey, Keith, what's going on? So it doesn't look like they. Yeah, okay. So I mean, yeah, they did face each other mostly at live events. Kevin Owens defended his U.S. title against AJ a couple of times. AJ defended his world title against Kevin Owens a couple of times, but usually in multi-man matches, not a lot of straight up one-on-one matches between Owens and AJ. So there you go. We went a little bit longer today. What's good, Keith? I was trying to get to 4,094 followers, but I'm going to fall just too short. Yes, Finn, Y2J versus KO was supposed to main event WrestleMania 33, and they pulled it at the last minute, and I hated it because I really did like Kevin Owens as the Universal Champion, and I felt like he deserved to have a better run with that title. They ended up giving that title to Goldberg, and it's like, well, why did they do that? Now, Patrick Moore, this is a good question, so let's talk about this one before we wrap it up for the day, but was there litigation between NWA and TNA over the usage of NWA marks in archive footage? I noticed that there were some NWA references removed in older footage. So not that I know of, Patrick, not that I don't feel like it was an actual, like a lawsuit. There's any kind of litigation. What I do know is this, that when TNA formed, they acquired a license from the NWA to showcase both the world and tag team titles. They were also supposed to promote the NWA territories as part of the agreement that would air on the pay-per-views. The NWA board of directors were still supposed to be the ones signing off on the decisions to who would be the next world champion. However, that didn't happen. And it was probably about the time Jeff Jarrett had his second run with the world title that they quit getting approval from the NWA board of directors when they did a title change. So there would be like, the first world champion for TNA with the NWA was Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was the first TNA NWA world champion. Then it was Ron Killings, and then it was Jeff Jarrett, and then it kind of bounced back between AJ, Jarrett, and it would, a lot of guys. Raven was mixed in there. Abyss was in there. Rhino got a short run. And it was, between these guys. And then Christian Cage won it. And then Cage was supposed to defend against Kurt Angle. And the day before it was supposed to happen, the NWA decided to end its licensing agreement with TNA Wrestling. Now, at that time, the NWA had a lot of grievances with the deal because TNA quit referencing the NWA Independence, the NWA Territories, the NWA Live events. They quit even calling the title the NWA World title. They just started referring to it as the TNA World Championship. And again, they were doing title changes. Sting was a title change that the NWA did not sign off on, nor would they have signed off on it because they couldn't afford to book Sting. Gigi Gianni is not Candice Michelle, though. Gigi Gianni. Gigi Gianni was... come on. There it is. Gigi Gianni, who wrestles for WOW. Miss Michelle, Gigi Gianni, Gia Michelle. She is different. And Gia Michelle, Gigi Gianni, has been wrestling regularly for WOW, but she is not Candice Michelle. I'm not even sure. Yeah, Gigi Gianni teams with BK Rhythm with Adriana Gambino, a.k.a. Valentina Rossi, and Reina Del Rey, a.k.a. Reyes, as the Alliance. Did that clear it up? I hope so. So, yeah, as far as the footage goes, Gigi Dolan is somebody else entirely. Jake Cal looks like Kevin Owens. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Well, we have fulfilled our obligation. We have been on the air for over 2 hours. So I do appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We didn't quite get to 4,094 followers, but we made it to 4,092. Yeah, and Double D, that wasn't wasted on me too, by the way. When they came up with the Alliance in the WOW Wrestling, I said, hey, I love that name. Nice job. And if they had a red eagle as their mascot, I would have sued the shit out of them. But no, excuse me. So that's going to do it for us this week. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with us. As always, it's so much fun talking wrestling with you guys, especially when we can hanker down on some NWA wrestling. So we're about to end the stream. Again, if you are a fan of the NWA or you want to just check out something new that you haven't seen before, go to Roku Sports and type in NWA. New matches will go up tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Or you can just search NWA and the video is up available right now. You can watch it on demand on the Roku Sports channel. And we'll talk about it on Thursday. If you want to join us, we'll be here on YouTube and TikTok and Kick and Twitch and wherever else we can find a spot. So until next time, we'll see you guys at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance Blog. And until next time,